Everyone, want to welcome everyone to the West LA Democratic Club, second set of judicial candidates for the Superior Court of LA County. We had a very successful meeting on Saturday. It just seems like everyone running is so well qualified to be a sitting judge and so informed. And it was a very hard choice for us in some cases to choose a candidate. In one instance, we couldn't, and we had a no consensus. I'm Cara Robin. I'm president of the club, the West LA Democratic Club. And as we see what's going on now with the Supreme Court, we see how very important it is to elect Democrats, to get our people to know. We have about a 2,000 mailing list, 2,000 names. And when we put your names in front of them, it gets them to know, at least when they look at the ballot, because you're nonpartisan. So they don't know who the Republicans are. They don't know who the Democrats are. But that's one of the main reasons that we do these forums, is to get your names out there, to get the Democrats out there. Because what's happening now with Roe v. Wade, we knew it was going to happen. So that said, this Saturday downtown, in downtown LA, there's going to be the big march for reproductive rights at 10 in the morning. I know a lot of us will be going down there. If you're interested in doing carpools or anything, let us know. You can email Ingrid. That's Ingrid. Michelle, you want to put her email in the chat, ingrid0034@aol.com. She is our operations VP, and she will also be perhaps sitting in for me for a few minutes and asking the questions. As I like to do now with every meeting, just for maybe 5-6 seconds or so, I really want us to put our energy out to our fellow world citizens in the Ukraine who are just being bombarded daily. I mean, this is just a nightmare that we have to watch this every day. Not that it isn't going on all over the world as well. So if you'll join me in just a minute, just sending out anything positive you can think of to all these people who are in such dire straits. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, and now, do we have Lloyd Handler yet?
I don't think so.
Okay, so then we will start our forum then with, we'll start with Holly Hancock and Matthew Vodnoy. These are seat 70. And so Michelle, you want to spotlight Holly and Matthew? And,
I am getting ready to do that.
And we will give you each 2 minutes to give opening statements. And then we'll do different questions. The questions will be either 1.5 or 2 minutes, and we'll let you know how what the timing on it is. So Holly, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, West LA. My name is Holly Hancock, and I am running for Los Angeles Superior Court Judge in seat number 70. Thank you for your attention. I'm running to give the voters a choice. And I believe that my professional background and the way that I practice differentiates me from my prosecutor colleagues. I am a deputy public defender. And for the past 16 years, I have fought for people's constitutional rights in the criminal court system. I have tried 65 trials to jury verdict. I have won or had reductions in about 80% of them. And I think that just speaks to my preparation and how I practice. But on a daily basis, the case trajectory is much less extreme. I must negotiate plea agreements for the vast majority of the cases and seek alternative solutions, seek the best solution. I have to know the effect on the client, their families, generationally, the effect on the victims and their families generationally. And sometimes those families are the same. And other times, my clients have also been victims. For this reason, I practice long-term solution building for the client and the community. I have to know the root cause of the problem. Public defenders do the heavy lifting. We appoint the psychologists, we petition the court for mental health diversion. Thank you. We ask that the client be moved to specialty courts, such as victims of human trafficking and the homeless court. For the past 2 years, I have been the supervisor of the post-conviction unit as the deputy in charge, the criminal records clearing division of the county's homelessness initiative. I supervise the much beloved homeless mobile unit, getting people expungements. I see judges who do not want to give people a second chance. This is a pipeline. Prosecution, punishment, to the bench. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I forgot to mention that this is Julie Goodman. Julie will be your timer. She has the, yeah, you saw it. It's so great to have the cards that she has. Okay, thank you so much, Holly. Matthew?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, West LA Democratic Club. My name is Matthew Vodnoy. I am also running for seat 70 along with Holly Hancock and actually Renee Chang, who I believe is on the call as well. And to be fair, we're the only 3 people that have really been showing up to any of these things. And it's because I think we're the 3 ones that care. And so let me tell you a little bit about us. Let me tell you a little about all 3 of us. We've all worked for the government for the past 15 plus years, 16 or more. We all have the same pedigree as far as getting the same paychecks, going to the same courts in front of the same judges. I've done over 50 jury trials. I've done every kind of trial any one of them have done. What does qualify an individual to be a judge is not their job, not being a deputy public defender, not being a deputy DA. I'm neither of those. I'm an attorney. I'm a private attorney. I was a deputy district attorney for more than 14 years. After being a DA for more than 14 years and trying every kind of case that could be discussed by anybody on this call, I left and I became a private attorney, and I have represented people and protected their constitutional rights exactly the same way as Holly Hancock has or any other public defender. I just have to find the business instead of get paid by the government. So there is nothing about any one of our jobs that qualifies us. I have been a Los Angelino my entire life. I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I've seen both sides. I've worked both with victims and represented them in court and prosecuted cases on their behalf when they were victimized. And I understand that pain, but I also have stood next to innocent people or overcharged people, people that should not be before a judge because they were not guilty for anything. And I fought for their rights. So I've done both. I am the only candidate that's going to be able to get in front of you in this seat and they can tell you, I get both. I can talk about both. I've lived both. Now, I'm not trying to say Holly Hancock is not a talented or a good person, nor would I say the same about Renee. What I'm saying is, if you want someone that is going to be fair and unbiased, which is what a judge is supposed to be, fair and unbiased, and represent everyone in the courtroom and not just one person, not just one side, that is what I am. That is who I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is kind of a different situation for us because Renee is here, but we asked and everyone else did find the time to fill out their questionnaires. I posted them on our emails. So it's a little delicate. I'm not quite sure how to handle this, Renee. I would like to give you a chance to speak. I think after they do the questions, we'll give you maybe 2 minutes to introduce yourself because, you know, it's what we requested of all the candidates and they all did send in their questionnaires and we
I'm sorry, and I apologize. I don't know. It slipped through the email. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, sure. You know what? Give it 2 minutes now and let me just work this out. All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry for the mix-up, but thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Renee Chang, and I'm running for seat 70 as well. A little bit about myself. I'm married with 2 kids, and I live in the South Bay with my family. I'm the daughter of immigrants. I went to UC Berkeley and received my undergraduate degree. I went to Columbia Law School and got my law degree there. When I graduated from Columbia, I had the opportunity to do many things, but I knew for me personally, I wanted to go into public service to give back to the community that had done so much for my family. So while defense attorneys and prosecutors are equally important and necessary for our system to function, we can't function without both of these. For me personally, I knew that I wanted to help victims of crime and help public safety. So I joined the DA's office right out of law school, and I've been there for 27 years. I'm currently the supervising deputy in charge of a unit that prosecutes child molestation, sexual assault, hate crimes, elder abuse, and domestic violence. And during this time, I've learned that these victims are often from the most vulnerable parts of our community. They involve children, they involve undocumented immigrants who have a fear or a distrust of the legal system. They involve members of the LGBTQ community. So I'm proud to have helped them find their voice for the last 27 years. And I know many of them feel in this current day that they're being overlooked. So I am here applying for your endorsement or for your support because I believe I'm the best qualified for this job. I have the highest rating from LACPA. I've been rated well qualified. Well, I've been rated well qualified. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we will, Renee, you can, you're here, so you might as well participate, but we're going to expect you to send your questionnaire in, all right? Because we're posting these and we want to put them on our website. You know, it's only to help you all. And so,
Absolutely.
okay. All right. So Andrea, are you here? Do you want to do the first question?
Sure, happy to. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Ambrose, and I'm on the with the club. Have a first question for everyone, and I'll ask my colleague Julie to keep us on time. The first question is, what is your judicial? Excuse me?
One and a half minutes to answer this question.
The first question will be the same question for everyone, and we can do it in order of Holly, Matthew, and then Renee. And the question is, what is your general judicial philosophy? Holly, over to you.
Thank you. My general judicial philosophy is the same as my practice. I need to hear both sides of the issue. I need to work with the people in the community. And that's what I have been doing. I think that my philosophy is this: you're going to be selecting your community judge. And I think that people don't look at it that way, but really you are. This is going to be the person who's going to be in the Los Angeles, airport court judge, Compton, Inglewood. This is where you're going to be. This person is going to be telling you how to live your life. It's not just criminal court, although you may be going into criminal court, or someone you know may go into criminal court, or someone you love may go into criminal court. But it could also, I bet you know someone who's gotten a divorce. I bet you know someone who's fighting for custody. See, these are the things that we will also perhaps be hearing. So I believe that you should work with the community, which I have done outside of my job, but even in my job, every single person is a case. And I have had to look at both sides. I've had to look at alternatives to incarceration. And it is the public defenders on the defense side who find a way to get to the soul of the solution. And in doing so, we make the community at large safer, because everybody comes home. Everybody comes back. I've been at this for 16 years and I am on the back end of it now doing post-conviction work. They all come back. They should have a way to live safely.
Thank you. Matthew.
Thank you. Hi. So my perspective is as follows. Every single experience we have is a human experience. Court is a human experience. It is between people. Judicial philosophy is how you treat people. It's how you treat the case. A judicial philosophy is about how it is your courtroom is going to impact individuals that walk in. Most people that come to a court have never been there before. It's scary, it's intimidating, and it's something like that is the unknown to you. So my judicial philosophy is as follows. Never forget we're human beings. Treat everyone with respect and listen. And most importantly, no matter what you look like, no matter how much money is in your pocket, and no matter who you love, you should be treated equally as anyone else that comes into that courtroom. Judicial philosophy should be an underpinning of how people will feel that your court was handled in a way such that it's fair, they were heard, and they leave with trust in the system. And to do that, they have to trust you as a bench officer. And the only way to build trust is to let people know you really do listen, you care, and you're fair. It's sort of like when you get scolded for something you did do, you got to be okay with it. And when you're rewarded for something you should feel good about that too. And that's how I would run my court, is never forgetting we're human beings and to treat every single person the same. I am not an advocate. You are not an advocate. You don't represent defendants any longer, and you don't represent victims any longer. You are there for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Renee, over to you.
Thank you. So my judicial philosophy is to approach all cases from a neutral position. I am not running with a political agenda for one side or another. I will look at all the facts of each and every case from a neutral position and apply the appropriate law to each case. I think when you have someone running with a political agenda, you lose the fairness and the impartiality of a court. And when I am running to apply the law as it is, as it's evolving, and I will apply it in every case. Now, there's a perception that people have of the courts, and oftentimes people don't think that the courts are fair, and I don't disagree with that perception. I think what judges need to do is not go out in the community. Judges do not go out in the community for every case they handle. They can't go in and get extra information. They have to deal with what's in the courtroom. So what I would do to help with that perception is explain everything to all the participants in the courtroom. I would take the time and make sure everything understood what was happening and why the decisions I am making were being made.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next question. And let's go Matthew, Renee, Holly on this. Why do you think our prison system is overrepresented by African American and Latino males? And following, what role can a judge play then in making the criminal justice system more equitable? Matthew.
Why do I think that? I think it's because unfortunately we've developed a society where there's a social construct that unfortunately impacts the minority communities and the lower socioeconomic communities. We don't provide support for infrastructure, for schools, after school programs, people that need hot meals. I mean, we just kind of give up on certain communities. And unfortunately, some of those communities end up in the jail system and into the judicial system. And unfortunately, a lot of those people tend to be harshly treated. And I mean, I think that there's been a long period of heavy-handed sentencing where judges are not taking into account other factors like some of the factors would be what was their upbringing, where did they come from, why did they do this, is there mental health, is there substance abuse issues, and take those things into account. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of sometimes the motivation or the underbelly of why something happened occurs. And it unfortunately has been in a minority community, and unfortunately they're all getting put away like they're garbage, and we need to stop doing that. And we need to start finding new ways to engage with these communities. I think it's not just the justice system that needs to improve, it's our whole social structure needs to improve within the county, the city, the state, the country. We need to stop giving up on lower socioeconomic communities, on the unhoused, on all the people that need help, and give them the help they need. And unfortunately, the need that they've been getting for the past several decades is going to prison, and that's got to end.
Okay. Renee, were you next?
Yes. I agree with a lot of the things that Matthew said. I believe we need more support for these underrepresented communities and for the low income communities. I believe that there has been some over policing, but I think a big part of the problem has been implicit bias that we all have. We're born with it, we're shaped by it through our life experiences, and we have this implicit bias. So I think that one thing, I know in our DA's office, we are trained that we all have it, and you can't get rid of it, but you can learn how not to act on it. And I think that's important. I think another thing that's been happening is, as I said before, the laws are constantly evolving to reflect the values of our times. And 30 years ago, when 3 strikes first came into play, that was what the values were or the lawmakers passed. And so the judges were bound by those laws. But over the course of time, these laws have been evolving. 3 strikes has changed, and now we have Prop 47 and we have Prop 57, and the courts are evolving with it. And so once there are more programs that are being funded and more programs that are being available, such as mental health diversion, such as homeless programs for people who commit crimes with mental health issues and drug addictions issues. Once more of these programs are in place and funded, the judges can definitely take advantage of these cases when appropriate. Or programs, rather.
Thank you. Holly.
Hi. So it's exactly that. There is our systems are systemically, implicitly biased. That is the way they're set up. And that is starting from policing, over policing in our communities, all the way up to on the back end, when we petition for them to get the expungement, the judges say no, even though it's maybe righteous, because they want the punishment to continue. They look at the person in front of them and that's what they think. So for sentencing, it's not just that the laws have been changing, but the criminal court system has not changed with it. Yes, we have Prop 47, 64, 57. These are all propositions that who passed? The people passed these. Voters passed these. And their elected officials passed these. And yet judges who are supposed to enact these are not doing it. That it's not happening. You know, we're asking for it on the defense side, we're asking for it, and it's not happening. In fact, with collaborative courts, I'm working with the homeless court, both 2 of them, one is in Long Beach, one is in Redondo Beach, but we can't get the money together. We cannot get the money together to do it downtown where it's most needed. So these are the kinds of things, and why is that? The judges are stonewalling it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Andrea?
Thank you. The next question in the order would be Renee, Matthew, then Holly. The next question we have for you is, what role can a judge play in improving the criminal justice system? I think it's a really good follow-up to what we were just talking about. So the question again is, what role can a judge play in improving the criminal justice system? Over to you, Renee.
Thank you. Well, judges, I think, have a responsibility of ensuring that everyone who comes into court has an understanding of what's happening. I think that that's one of the biggest problems with courtrooms. People come in and things are happening so quickly and they don't understand before they know it, their case has been called and they're done and they have no clue what happened. I don't know if you saw the show on Netflix, but it was called Maid. And when this woman went into family law court over a custody issue, it was interesting. They showed the judge and the attorneys talking, but what this woman heard was legal, 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 and she had no clue what was going on. So I think it's very important that judges make sure that all the participants in court understand what's going on. I also think that judges can do not legal work outside, but they can do community outreach, they can do community service, they can help. They have mentorship programs with judges. And I think these are some sort of extracurricular things that judges can do.
Okay. Next.
I think was I next? I think I was next. Okay. So, I think it goes back to judicial philosophy for me. And that is, this is supposed to be a system not based on protecting victims and not protecting defendants. Growing up, you always saw those statues with the woman holding the scales of justice and the blinders on. Our justice system has become so politicized. It's even being politicized in these races, with people saying because they're from a job or they've done certain thing representing certain people, they're leaning in a specific way that's better or more appropriate. That is politicizing it. If you think the bench is biased, don't you be biased. I do think that there are still people that wear black robes that still think they're district attorneys. And there's people that wear black robes that still think they're defense attorneys. That has got to end. We cannot instill trust in our community if all we're doing is continuing to be lawyers. You have to become a judge and treat everyone fairly and impartially. And I think the way to fix the system is to do that one case at a time. And the only way to do that one case at a time is to be honest to who you are and what you're supposed to do, which is a fair, impartial judge and treating people with respect and dignity, so that when people leave the room, they feel like they were treated fairly and the law came out as it should, not because of Republican, Democrat, public defender, or defense. That's how it should work.
Thank you. Holly, over to you.
Yes, thank you. What role can a judge do in improving the criminal justice system? That's the question that was asked. And so I would say that because of how my background and my professional background, and by that, and that's what I mean, we all use our training, we all use our background. If we can't walk on and be a blank slate, that would be, throwing away years of experience. And I refuse to do that. So what I do know is that diversity is important on the bench because you are going to come from a different perspective. It's not a perspective that is going to be biased against any one side or the other. It's simply a way to practice, a way to judge, a way to be on the bench differently. And I think that what we need is for judges to start following the law. I've had problems time and again in the courtroom with judges who are not following the law. They are ignoring the laws that the people have passed. And that's the problem. And it is largely because they come from the prosecution side of the law. That's where they come from. So let's just break that down. There may be a few defense side people who are also not following the law. I haven't run into them because the bench is overweighted with prosecution background. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the next question is, would you please describe in a minute and a half one instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma and how did you resolve it? And for this, let's go Renee, Holly, Matthew. You're muted, honey.
I just went first. Do you want me to go first?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. You're muted.
Okay. So as the deputy district attorney, we have a very defined set of guidelines, and we have very defined ethical obligations that we strictly adhere to. So I don't have, I think what you're saying, as I've never been in a position of an ethical dilemma, because I have guidelines that I follow all the time. I have different kinds of dilemmas. In my job as a supervisor of this unit that handles serious cases, sexual assault, elder abuse, domestic violence, one of my assignments is, one of my responsibilities is deciding whether or not to file cases. And I have to look at the law, and I have to look at the admissible evidence, and I also have to look at the seriousness of the act. And sometimes we have very serious cases where we think we know who the offender is, but let's say there was a Miranda violation or there was an issue with the evidence. I cannot file that case if I believe that there was an legal violation which would prevent that evidence from being admissible. So if that case, it's a difficult decision, it's my responsibility, but if I find that there isn't enough admissible evidence, I don't file the case.
Matthew?
Sure. Okay. I actually have one that will stick with me probably forever. So I was trying a murder case when I was in a unit in the district attorney's office where we prosecuted special victims. And I believe it's the same unit that Renee is actually a supervisor for now. It's called the VIP unit. So my case was a situation where a young man had mental health problems. And for whatever reason, they were focused on his sister. And unfortunately, in front of his mother and his father, he killed her. And it was tremendous. It was one of the most emotionally difficult things I've done. But the issue was there was no formal diagnosis of mental health, although it was clearly obvious. And so there was no way to put it really before the judge through any kind of actual admissible evidence. And so I made an agreement with the alternate public defender, with the defense attorney, that I would allow her to ask certain questions without objecting so that the jury would actually be able to hear that he did have some mental health issues. Now, they were not formally diagnosed, but they were informally treated, and they were definitely clear from what we knew of him, but just wasn't admissible. You just have to have admissible evidence. That's part of how it works in a courtroom. And we made an agreement, the defense attorney and I, that the jury should know about that. And so we made sort of a handshake deal, and she asked her questions and the jury got to hear about it. And I thought that was the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
Well, thank you for that, Vodnoy. I do thank you for that. Okay, I have not had real issues, ethical issues of that type. I have, well, one of the issues I have right now, which I won't go into, but I'm a supervisor over a certain unit, and sometimes you will have issues about the attorneys that are working under you and whether or not they're basically doing their job. I find that to be a new kind of issue for me, because I've always before worked on my own, and I've been an attorney and I do my work and I work pretty hard. So I think, should I report these things? I write the PEs, I write the performance evaluations, how to write them, how to say certain things aren't getting done, how to approach the person. I find it to be, it's not ethical, but I find it to be a difficult learning experience for me. Is it learning trajectories, is being in charge of people and writing their performance evaluations. I have often run into, as a trial attorney, which I was for 14 years, I have run into people who have hidden evidence from me. And I have run into witnesses who are lying on the stand. Some of those might be police. I think that they should be having ethical issues about it. And I've certainly sought to expose that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Andrea.
Thank you for those really good answers. Another question, and a somewhat of a different angle. Can you please describe an instance you face in implementing a law, rule, or a directive from the district attorney's office or elsewhere that you might not have agreed with? And for this one, we'll go Matthew, Holly, and Renee. And again, the question is, can you describe an instance you faced in implementing a law, rule, or directive that you might not have agreed with?
Well, I mean, the question is kind of a weird question because I would think that'd be unethical to do, but I'm trying to figure out a way to formulate an answer. I mean, I think the closest thing I can come to is where when I was a district attorney, and one of the reasons why I did leave the district attorney's office is I did have conflicts where I thought that somebody should get probation, specifically thought somebody should get like a mental health diversion, and I was told no, it's prison. So I couldn't not follow it because I would get fired, but I certainly voiced my opinion that that wasn't right. And I certainly stood my ground. And one particular occasion, I got thrown out of an office and I had to get transferred from the unit. But that's, you know, as a judge, I mean, basically, if I was a judge, you wouldn't have that luxury. You don't get to say, I'm not following this law. So that question is kind of moot to a bench officer in the sense of we don't follow directives. If any judge is following a directive from a district attorney or a public defender, they're not being a judge. They're implementing policy. I can tell you personally, while I have been an attorney, I try to do everything I can to be as ethical as possible and pursue everything I think is right. When I was a DA, I didn't agree with everybody going to prison. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a DA anymore. And so I can't point to any specific law or directive, and I don't know that it'd be appropriate for me to comment on that as a judicial candidate, but I'll follow the law as a judge.
Thank you. Holly?
Yes, I don't have that kind of directives or setup. So, and this is again, is a difference between prosecution and defense, especially at the public defender's office. We are trained to handle the cases from start to finish. So we take our clients, we work on them, we do it all the way through. And our management is pretty much hands off in terms of if you seek help, you can get help. But you are not told you must go to trial on this, or you're not told that you must accept this deal. And I've really enjoyed that part because I am pretty much an independent thinker. And that's why, and I think that will serve me well on the bench. I don't feel like, I think it's much more hierarchical from everything that I understand and know in the prosecutor's office. And that's the way it is for them. But it's not like that for us. It's more linear, and you know, we work with each other, but you know, my practice is my practice. So, and what I decide to do with my client is what I decide to do with my client. I have not, you know, I've had difficult clients to deal with. You know, I've had clients who want to testify, and I don't think that what they would say would be truthful. You know, there are ways for me to put them up on, but it's their right to get on the stand. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Renee?
I think this question probably is most applicable to me as being a current member of the DA's office. I will say that directives from the district attorney, I follow all the directives. I am currently in a position of great discretion because my duties include, as I told you before, deciding whether or not to file cases in the first place. And I'm also the one who is responsible for approving and authorizing dispositions. That means plea bargains for all these types of cases. So when I file, I follow the special directives. And when I do plea bargains, I follow the special directives. I have an ethical obligation to follow the law. I think in the beginning of this current district attorney's tenure, there were sweeping reforms and directives that came out that it took some time to digest. They have been modified with time as members of the community chimed in with respect to hate crimes allegations, great bodily injury allegations, weapon use allegations, and certain allegations which are required by law for the DA to file. Yeah, I follow the directives as they are today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Cora, do we have any more time?
Yes, we do. If you want to ask, actually, one thing that we haven't done, and which we did on Saturday with all of the candidates, is to ask you to please tell us your bar association ratings. Holly. Hello.
Qualified.
Qualified. Matthew.
Qualified.
Renee.
Well qualified.
Okay. And Andrea, I think you had another question that's very timely.
I do. I have a dog behind me barking, so apologies for that. But you know, it's working from home. So hopefully you can hear me. I'll speak a little louder than normal. My question here actually regards the recently leaked SCOTUS public opinion, or the draft opinion. And you know, would like to hear your thoughts on either the precedent that the opinion could set for I would say a long history of freedoms that that we have set for women in the country, and or any precedent and impact they would have on just the leaking of opinions in their form. So either way you want to take that question, you know, welcome your thoughts on it. Perhaps we'll go over to, we'll start back at the top. We'll go Holly, Matthew, and Renee.
Well, I'll make this comment about it because we can't make comments about things that might come before us. But I will say this in general, because we can talk generally about what might improve the judiciary, and that is in our canons, that is in the judicial canons, that you can talk about what might overall improve the judiciary. I think that justices who are making decisions, many of whom have not been in trial courts, they haven't been, most of them have not been, many of whom were, maybe they were professors, et cetera, at one point, and most of them, and if not that, then they were prosecutors. But we are dealing with people who did not deal with the community. They did not deal with people in the community and the tough decisions that have to be made by men and women, women and men in this circumstance. And I think, again, background informs behavior, and, you know, and that particular group, the justices, as every group, really needs diversity. I mean, there is, and I mean diversity of your background, diversity of who you are individually, because you can't just come from one side and people reach out a hand to those who are like them. That's pretty normal. That's human nature. Thanks.
Thank you, Holly. Matthew?
Well, I'm not going to comment because it's not appropriate based on judicial canons on whether Roe v. Wade being overturned is something I agree with, or whether that sets up a slippery slope of other rights that have been found to be personal rights that are protected by the Constitution. that's just, if anybody's going to answer that question in any of these forums, are violating the canons of judicial candidates. So I can't get into that. What I can say, though, is it's inappropriate that the tentative opinion was leaked. I think that was a hyper-political move by somebody trying to manipulate the general public to cause the court to think about what it's going to do ahead of its actual releasing of the published opinion when it does come around. I think the role of the Supreme Court has been evolving in our society, and unfortunately having more and more impact on our personal lives. We need to, as bench officers and attorneys, we have to respect what the law is, and sometimes it's interpreted by the courts. And if you agree with it or you don't agree with it, that's personal. But as a professional, you go to court and you follow the law, and that's all you can ask a judge to do, and that's all they should be doing. Now, I think as a man, I also feel like Roe v. Wade is not something I even want to touch with a 10-foot pole. But as a human being, I respect everybody's individual rights and respect everybody's freedom to choose what to do with their body. That's all I will ever say on something like this, in this topic. But do I think it's right that something was leaked, whether it be this case or any other case? Absolutely not. We should have faith and trust in our systems. And if people are manipulating the judiciary by releasing documents that could be influential to his decision, that is completely inappropriate, and that should be dealt with and handled. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
I echo what Holly and Matthew said about how, as judicial candidates, we are prohibited from commenting on issues that may appear in the court. That is Canon 5 of the Judicial Code of Ethics. I will also say, as Matthew said, that on a personal level, I have always believed in the right of everyone to their own body and their personal rights. I also think that judges should not be political, and they should follow the law, especially on the Superior Court level. And on the Superior Court level, I have not encountered judges on the Superior Court level in Torrance, where I practice, not applying the laws as they have been evolving as referenced by one of the candidates here. There is a recourse on the Superior Court level. If you do not believe a judge is applying the law, you can appeal that, you can file a writ, and there is a recourse in that area. So again, like it's been said before, judges are supposed to be fair and impartial and apply the law as it is and not how they think it should be.
Thank you, Renee. We've wrapped up our time for questions, so we'll move to 2 minutes of closing. We'll go over to Matthew, Renee, and then Holly. So Matthew, 2 minutes. Over to you.
Okay, so I'll go first. I never got to go last one time this whole meeting. I just want to point that out, which makes me feel special. I'm always either first or second, never third place. Thank you for having us here tonight. As you can see, I believe in collegiality. I believe in respect for others. I don't think in order to win something, you have to denigrate something else. And I believe that that's how I'll take my philosophy to the bench. That will be something that allows people to come into my courtroom and feel like they don't have to lose. They can just not win the argument. They don't have to be punished. They can just get what they deserve. Now, I've been practicing almost 20 years. I've been on both sides. I've been both a prosecutor. I am currently a defense attorney. I'm a father. I'm a part of this community. And so I believe in my presentation to you. I hope what you've learned about me is that I have the right temperament and the right perspective to be a bench officer. And I'm not trying to say that Ms. Hancock or Ms. Chang are terrible and no way, but just that my life distinguishes me, my personal and professional life, and makes me the best superior candidate for this particular seat. I believe everybody needs to come to that courtroom and have the only people advocating be their attorneys. I believe everyone that comes into the courtroom should be treated with respect and honesty. And that's what I will do. And that's the kind of person I am. And with that, I want to thank you for your time this evening. I know you take a lot of time and a lot of energy to do these things, and it's very important that people take this kind of interest because the case is not just like Roe v. Wade, but because of Smith versus Smith and all the people that come to these courts every single day. It's important to everybody. Every case that comes through is the most important case to them, and that's how I will treat it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Renee?
Hi, so I am coming forward as a candidate in this race as I said, not one with a political bias, but one who is the most qualified for this job. As I've said earlier, I have the highest Los Angeles County Bar Association rating in my seat. I've also been working in the courts for 27 years, and I have a very good reputation in the court, such that I have the endorsement of over 65 Superior Court judges. That's far more than anyone else in my seat. And they all know me, and they know my work ethic, and they know that I am fair. And many of these judges who've endorsed me are former public defenders who I actually had cases with and I've tried cases against. And they wouldn't endorse me if they didn't think I would be a fair and impartial judge. I also have the endorsement of the Metropolitan News Enterprise, which is the legal newspaper that covers the Los Angeles County courts. I have the endorsement of the Crime Survivors PAC and of law enforcement. And also of the 3 prior district attorneys, Jackie Lacey, Steve Cooley, and Gil Garcetti, who we all know come from very different ends of the political spectrum. And I've worked personally with Jackie, Steve, and Gil, and they know me and my work ethic, and they were all proud to endorse me. So those are my qualifications. And I've spent my entire career working on behalf of the community and behalf of victims. And I want to thank you for your time and thank you for allowing me to participate. And I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Holly, 2 minutes, over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening and hearing us and hearing me. Again, I'm Holly Hancock, and I am a deputy public defender. I am running because the facts say judges are not following your laws. I'm going to give you a couple of facts. The current population in our jails, the county jail, Los Angeles County Jail, was 12,837 as of April 11th. 5,500 of those people have mental health needs. 3,600 of them were Black. 6,900 of them were Hispanic. And 6,000 of them were awaiting pretrial. That's almost half. That means that a judge took the bench, and when they came in for arraignment, that judge did not follow the new law, which is also known as Humphrey. That judge said, how much bail should I have this person post? Instead of, should I have this person post bail? This is why I'm running, because people don't even know that they are biased. They are implicitly biased. This is what's happening in our system. I am the endorsed candidate of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party. I am endorsed by the United Democrats of San Gabriel Valley, Stonewall, Pasadena Foothills, Yes We Can, Martin Luther King Jr., many more, as well as the Association of Flight Attendants, Communication Workers of America, Unite Here 11, Local 11, which is service workers. I work with people. I've always worked with people. And I have a balanced view by working with people. I've seen hurt, pain, and struggle on both sides of the bench. and I can take the bench and ask the hard questions. I ask for your endorsement because I am the most qualified to sit on the bench. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Renee. And thank you for indulging us as we try to have kind of clear faces and try to be as unbiased as possible, though there are many moments where we were nodding internally, my dog included. So thank you. I'm now going to pass it over to Cara and Ingrid for the next sense of the process.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so thank you again. And now we have Lloyd Handler coming up. Lloyd, can you identify yourself, please? Where are you?
Good evening.
Yes.
Oh,
We,
good evening. I'm Lloyd Handler. I'm also a deputy public defender. I currently work downtown, and I have chosen to run against sitting Judge David Gelfand due to his reactionary status towards new rehabilitative statutes allowing rehabilitative sentencing in appropriate cases.
okay, and you want to take another minute and tell us a little more? about
Oh,
yourself?
sure. Well, I've been rated qualified for the job by the LA County Bar Association. I've been a trial lawyer for 33 years. I've worked as a deputy district attorney. I've worked in private practice, so I know both about the stresses and demands on both prosecutors and private lawyers. I think a judge needs to understand if dealing with those people from the bench. But as you've heard, I have the background of a public defender, which has given me the skills and the knowledge to figure out why a person is having problems that's brought him before the criminal justice system, so that I can work with all the parties to identify those problems and make sure that appropriate programming is put in place to rehabilitate that person, especially in those situations where the alternative would be perhaps a brief but traumatic sentence in prison or jail, where the person is just going to come back out in a few years. I think if a judge has discretion and it's legally appropriate to consider probation, that a judge dive in and get his hands dirty and work with the parties on the details of programming and the provision of services that will both keep the community safe in the short run, but also contribute to the long-term health and safety of the community by getting the person back on track so it can be a productive member of society.
Okay, thank you. Well, for your first question, and the person I'm sharing the questions with now is Ingrid Van Eckert, our operations vice president, and Julie Goodman will be your timer. You will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. The first being, what is your general judicial philosophy? Hello, Lloyd?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going on to someone else.
Oh,
Generally, I think the main thing is the judge has to be fair. Someone who doesn't know the judge or his background should not be able to figure out whether they're a former prosecutor, a civil lawyer, or a former defense attorney from watching their interactions in the courtroom. Everyone should feel like they're being treated the same and they're being listened to as intently and as respectfully, regardless of what side they're on and regardless of what they're accused of. I think there's a problem, though, with the judiciary, especially in areas where, although I generally support law enforcement and consider a number of law enforcement officers among my actual personal friends, we do know that there's a problem with police who abuse their power, both by acting violently in the street and being dishonest as to how they write up events or deal with witnesses or how they deal with the courts. And I've seen too many times that judges will be uncomfortable about a story they've heard an officer testify to and will strain themselves to make tortured rationales for why they are going to dismiss a case or suppress some evidence or limit the use of a confession, instead of just being straight up with it and saying that they don't believe the police officer and indicating why, and then following up appropriately. I think that members of the bench turning a blind eye to police misconduct when they see it is one of the main problems that we have in our justice system. And I think it's one of the main things that have eroded the confidence normal people have in the courts and in the police. So I think a judge has to be honest and fair, but when there's a problem, and this goes to with lawyers too, whether it be a defense lawyer or a prosecutor who's not executing their duties in a straightforward way, that the judge can't be silent and just sort of let it go based on inexperience, especially with prosecutors that have a higher ethical duty than defense lawyers in our adversary system. I think they really need to be held to the level that the case law expects them to be held to.
Thank you. Ingrid, you're muted. You're muted. Okay.
All right. Lloyd, do you support the recall of District Attorney Gascon? If yes, why? And if no, why not?
Well, I do have an opinion on that, but I think it would be inappropriate in this type of forum to comment on it, in that a judge has to be neutral. And if I were to become a judge, and especially if I'm likely, given my experience, to be in a criminal assignment, I don't think I can be on record as having an opinion for or against one of the major players in the system, just like I couldn't express an opinion of any lawyer who might come in front of me before taking the bench. Essentially, all of the prosecutors, at least in the felony level in LA County, are essentially deputies of Mr. Gascon, and it would be inappropriate for me to express an opinion for or against their boss. So if you look at my website and see my background, you could probably infer where I stand.
Okay, I appreciate that. One of the reasons we ask that is because we've just learned all of our recently Supreme Court justices who were confirmed all lied about what they would do with Roe v. Wade. They said, it's the law of the land, et cetera, and they did lie when they answered. So thank you for your straightforward answer. I will ask you the next question. Our prison system is disproportionately represented by members of underserved communities, including African American and Latino males. What role can a judge play in making the criminal justice system more equitable? 1.5 minutes, please.
I believe we lost Lloyd.
We lost Lloyd.
Yes. Unfortunately, he exited the room.
Oh dear. He dropped off. Well, okay. Well, if he comes back, we'll pick him up at the end. Let's go on then to, wait, Lloyd's back. Lloyd, are you back?
About that, I'm here.
Good.
Okay, so did you hear my question? Our prison system is disproportionately represented by members of underserved communities, including African American and Latino males. What role can a judge play in making the criminal justice system more equitable?
Well, as I said, one can start by treating everyone the same. However, right now, for example, 2 of the public defender's offices in the judicial districts of downtown and Compton are inundated with cases, and the lawyers handling cases for the defense have caseloads that are much bigger than other places. I think to start with, a judge needs to understand the realistic pressures and resource limitations on the litigants who represent people of this type, and needs to give them the time to work the cases up, and can't be acting when it comes to requests for experts to help them with the cases. They really, they don't want to be irresponsible, but on the other hand, they shouldn't be acting like many judges do, like the money is coming out of their own wallet. These are services that everyone has a right to if they can't afford them, and unfortunately, the court has to pay where the clients are indigent. And so I think that would be a big step towards doing that. Also, I think, much as I talked about dishonest police officers, I think a judge needs to be cognizant for both the explicit bias and implicit bias that may become obvious in the courtroom when one sees why certain people are before the court. There are certain laws that are used almost exclusively to pull over minorities, such as having a cracked windshield or something hanging from your windshield.
Okay.
All right. Next question
Excuse
is,
me, Carl, I
Yes.
can't turn on, it says the host turned off my video.
Oh, because, yeah, okay, let's turn it back on.
If you want me to keep time, I need the video.
yes. Yay. All right. Should I go to the next one?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. What role can a judge play in improving the criminal justice system?
Well, other than being fair and leading by example, at least in LA County, one of the things I've found through my litigation in both the Southwest Judicial District in Torrance, as well as in Long Beach, is the way that jurors are assigned for service by sending them, if possible, to the courthouse closest to where they live, results in jurors that are available to be picked from in various courthouses, such as Long Beach, downtown, and formerly in Torrance, not reflecting a representative cross-section of the community from which the case has arisen. And when you have some courts, such as the downtown criminal court, that gets more jurors from areas north and to the northeast, northwest of the courthouse, and fewer from south of the courthouse, where most of the minorities live, you have jury panels that unfortunately tend to be all white and Asian, judging the cases of Blacks and Latino people. And so, given what I've learned, if I become a judge, I want to work internally to have the court address those problems, because I've found out quite a bit about how it works, and there's some fairly simple solutions.
Okay. And lastly, please describe one instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma, and how did you resolve it?
Boy, it's hard to narrow it down to one case. One of the things that one is exposed to frequently as a defense lawyer is situations where, knowing the law and knowing the facts, one has a very good idea of a story that would be very beneficial to the client if that was his story. And so, but you don't want to be in a situation of supporting perjury and having a client put words in a client's mouth. So sort of a constant battle to help the client express himself, but not interview them in a leading fashion that would suggest an answer that would be helpful to them when that may not be the truth. But more specifically, there's been numerous examples where in serious cases, the court is ruling and is reciting issues relating to the evidence, and you realize that the court misheard something that was in evidence and unfortunately, if the court's about to rule in your favor after reciting some facts that aren't true, there's been numerous times where I've had to disclose to the court that although I wanted the ruling he was about to give me, that if it was going to be based on a fact that he had misunderstood, that it was my duty to correct him. And hopefully that would at least allow him to listen to some of my other arguments that might be validly appropriate under the factual circumstances.
Okay, thank you. And 1.5 minutes to close, please.
Well, I've been a lifelong Democrat, and although this is not a partisan race, I think that our party historically has evidence a certain set of values that that on one hand have a value of fairness towards everyone, and also fairness towards people who may be less fortunate. And so although this is not a partisan race, I think my commitment to those values and the work I've put into the Democratic Party, the work I've done talking to people on the phones, going door to door in Nevada and Arizona, I think shows that I have the values to run a fair courtroom that's going to watch out for everyone, not just the rich and powerful, but also some of the least among us and some of these highly damaged people who just need someone to understand them and line them up with the appropriate services so that they can lead productive lives rather than just throwing people away.
Well, thank you. And thank you very much for participating. And we wish you luck.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the next set of, and by the way, Lloyd, what is your rating, please? Your bar rating?
Oh, the state bar rated me as qualified.
Okay.
One can draw some inferences as to who they rate well qualified and who they don't.
Fine. And what is your seat for everyone?
Number 116, I'm running against sitting Judge David Gelfand, who's a former prosecutor and Republican.
Number 116. Okay, thank you very much. And next, we have seat number, let me look up here.
118.
118 with Melissa Hammond, Georgia Huerta, Clint McKay, and Carolyn Jeong Park. Are all our candidates here?
I'm here.
Okay, Clint is here. Melissa, I saw.
Everybody's here.
Carolyn and Georgia. All right. So
Yes.
Michelle, please spotlight them. And Andrea and Ingrid, I am going to
Yeah.
leave these 4 questions to you as I go back to our ballot. Folks,
Okay.
the ballot will be going out at 7:30. Excuse me,
Hi
what's
there.
going on?
I
Hello?
was about to leave and then I realized I was supposed to be on this call.
Lloyd Handler, mute yourself, please.
Okay, he did.
You
We're
did.
good.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the ballots.
Okay.
Excuse me, Ingrid, may I finish, please? The ballots will be going out in about 15 minutes. And I would appreciate if you all would wait until the end of the this session, which should be over at about maybe 10 of 8, maybe 5 of 8, and then you'll have 5 minutes, 6, 7 minutes to get your ballot in. And as soon as they're all in, I will announce the results. So first, everyone you'll all get a 2-minute opening, and then 1.5 minutes to answer your questions and 1.5 minutes to close. Ingrid, do you want to take over from here? Do the order?
Absolutely. Yeah. Why don't we start with Melissa? Please let us have your opening statement.
Oh, excuse me. I wanted to introduce you to Julie Goodman here. Julie is your timer. She will be giving you your time left. And also, please, when in your introduction, give us your bar rating. We are interested in that. Okay, thank you.
Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, hello, Melissa.
Hi. Okay. Hi, I'm Melissa Hammond. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. My grandparents are Holocaust survivors who came to Los Angeles to make a new life for themselves and start a new family after having lost their entire families to the Nazis. My grandmother still lives in West Los Angeles. I'm a lifelong Democrat. Growing up, I helped out at SOVA and Pico Robertson area and at the Jewish Home for the Aging. My dad is a criminal defense attorney in Los Angeles, and some of my first memories as a child were going to the courts and jails of LA to watch him in action. My first job in criminal law was actually working for my dad and helping him with his clients and cases. During my time at UCLA School of Law, I conducted administrative hearings in front of administrative law judges. After graduating, I accepted a position at a civil law firm, but soon found myself working at the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office. I loved being a public defender. I did many preliminary hearings and jury trials for the Public Defender's Office. I loved helping my clients. However, I soon realized that I could do more for the people accused of crimes, for the victims, and for the public if I went to the district attorney's office. I decided to become a really good and fair district attorney and really make a difference. So that's why I left the Public Defender's Office and went to the DA's office. I am probably one of the most fair and reasonable DAs you will ever find. In fact, I work in a felony court right now where I routinely offer mental health diversion and substance abuse treatment rather than jail time. I'm running for judge because I believe I have the experience, compassion, and knowledge to be a fair and good judge. I have been rated well qualified by the Los Angeles County Bar Association, and I am the only woman in my seat currently serving the public and working in public service. I'm the only person in my seat and in the whole election who has been both a public defender and a DA, which is very rare. I'm also a mother, which is honestly the best job of all. If I get elected, I want to work with children in dependency or juvenile court. I'd really love to have the support and endorsement of this club. I would be so incredibly honored. Thank you.
Thank you. And Georgia, you're next with your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Georgia Huerta, and it's a pleasure to be here. I am a lifelong Democrat, and I was rated well qualified by the Los Angeles Bar Association. I decided to become a lawyer and one day hope to be a judge based on where I lived as a young child, which was in South Central Los Angeles. I lived there with my mother and 6 other siblings. I had an opportunity to witness the criminal justice system very early in life, and I did not like everything that I witnessed. I thought I could do something to help my community. So I thought being an attorney would do that. I had a choice between becoming a public defender or a deputy district attorney, and I chose the deputy district attorney because I felt that if the right thing was done in the beginning, then there would be no need to correct something later on. You talk about minorities being overrepresented in prisons. Those sorts of things worried me, and I felt I could make a difference about that. I'm a person with very good values. I believe people should be treated fairly, and that everyone should be treated with dignity and respect. I am a big involver in my community. My community was very helpful to my mother and us as we were growing up. And as a result, I do believe strongly in community service. I provide service with Project Lead. I work through my church as an usher and on the board of directors. We host many events for our community on 78th and Broadway to help other people. I believe that's essential. Also, I believe that as a judge, I would be fair. My life experiences are different. And I believe that in order for our judicial system to be better, we need diverse people on the bench, people who have experienced different things in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we'll hear from Clint.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I left home when I was 15. After that, I lived in my car. I did various things. I drove a cab in Detroit. I was a psychiatric social worker for 5 years, off and on. I then put myself through the rest of my high school. I put myself through my undergraduate work at the University of Michigan and graduated with honors. I was the first man to graduate with a degree in women's studies from the University of Michigan. I then put myself through law school, and then I put myself through business school at the University of California at Berkeley. I practiced law for 25 years. I was first tried my first case in 1978, which was a few days ago now, just in case anybody's counting. I then joined the Attorney General's office, where I was the statewide liaison for the Board of Psychology, Board of Acupuncture, and I wrote the practice manual for the Emergency Medical Services Authority, which licenses paramedics. In that capacity, I sort of specialized in prosecuting doctors who killed children, were mentally ill, or dealt drugs. I then became a judge. I was an administrative law judge for 7 years. I was a line judge. We decide all the cases in California, in the state of California. We have statewide jurisdiction involving low-income Medi-Cal. If you ever want to know poverty, decide cases with people who make less than 138% the federal poverty level. You'll understand what poverty means. We also decide all the foster care cases with disputes with the county. We also decide all of the disputes with Covered California and the county's various applicants and different people. Last year I was elevated to presiding judge. I've been a presiding judge now since last year. I supervise a panel of judges to do those cases. I train them. I guide them in hearings and I help them become better judges. And that's what I've done for the last year. I also am endorsed by Stonewall, the North Valley Democratic Club, Democratic Alliance for Action, and Democratic Party of San Fernando Valley. There are other things, but that's enough. That's all for now.
Thank you. And Carolyn, please give us your opening statement.
Hello, fellow Democrats. I have been a practicing attorney for over 18 years, and a third of my career was spent at SEIU Local 1000, representing about 9,000 state workers throughout LA County in administrative hearings and in civil court. I've also represented immigrants, people exercising their constitutional rights and tenets, much of it on a pro bono basis. In law school, I externed with a federal judge and helped write his decisions. I'm currently handling a lawsuit against the Sheriff's Department in federal district court. The LA County Bar Judicial Elections Endorsement Committee does not have objective criteria for courtroom experience, and that committee is a self-selected group that looks very much like the bench, which is mostly corporate attorneys and prosecutors, and majority white and male. I've litigated about 60 cases in administrative law setting and in civil court, which is actually much more litigation experience than many judges have when they get onto the bench. I'm running because I want to be the change I want to see. I can bring fairness as someone who has lived experience as a woman of color and as a community lawyer. Recent events have put in stark reality the need for judges whose values are aligned with the wider public. We need diversity on the bench. We need more women. We need more women of color. And most importantly, we need judges with diversity of legal background and experience representing community members, not more prosecutors or corporate defense attorneys. That's why I'm endorsed by Unite Here Local 11, IATSE Local B192, Councilmember Mike Bonin, Assembly Member Isaac Bryan, Assembly Member Ash Kalra, and so many more. And I would be honored to have your endorsement.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to the first question. We'll start again with Melissa. And the question is, do you support the recall of District Attorney Gascon? And if yes, why? And if no, why not?
So as the only person here who actually works for the district attorney's office, I am a deputy district attorney currently, and I'm the only one here that is a current deputy district attorney. So as a result, I can't really answer that question. George Gascon is my boss, and I just don't want to, it doesn't make me feel comfortable to answer that question about my boss. So thank you.
Not a problem. We'll go to Georgia.
Hi. I worked with the district attorney's office for over 30 years. I will not answer that question or can't answer that question because Judicial Canon number 5 states that a candidate for a judicial position cannot comment on the current DA. So that's the reason why I cannot answer that question. And my personal opinion really doesn't matter in a situation like this. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that for you.
Not a problem. And Clint, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I suspect you'll not get any different answer from me than you got from the other two, or from the person you're about to ask. I could be wrong, but that's my speculation. So none of us can answer that question unless the last candidate chooses to do so. But I suspect that none of us can answer that question. I certainly can't, for the reasons.
Thank you.
Described.
Yeah, Carolyn.
Yes, judicial ethics prohibit judicial candidates from taking positions in favor or in opposition to political candidates. And as he is a political candidate, I don't feel that I can answer that question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Andrea, are you asking the next question? Otherwise, I will.
Should be, she should be. Well, okay, then you go.
I'll ask the next question. Let's again start with, just otherwise I'll get too confused. Let's again start with Melissa. Why do you think our prison system is overrepresented by African American and Latino males? And what role can a judge play in making the criminal justice system more equitable?
I think it's definitely multifaceted, the answer to that question. There's just been a long history of racism, discrimination in our country and in the state, in the county, and it's gone back many, many years. So that's kind of the start of it. And from what I see as a deputy district attorney and also as a deputy public defender, I saw a lot of people that were basically following in the footsteps of their parents, of their grandparents. And you have this constant cycle that goes back many, many years. And we really need to start intervening in that cycle. And I think the best way really to start with that intervention is with the youth, because we really need the youth to have proper role models. And that's why I would love to go into juvenile court or dependency court, where I could really help the children and make the best decisions I could for kids. I have kids of my own, and they're pretty small, so I'm very familiar with children, and I deal with their friends and their classmates, and I really think that I could make a very strong impact on these kids' lives. And that's why I want to go there, and I think that that's the best way to handle the situation at this point in time that we find ourselves in right now.
Thank you so much. And Georgia.
I attribute it to the fact of lack of diversity on the bench. When you don't have a good representation on the bench that represent the people who come into court, then I believe that there's a disconnect sometimes. And I believe if there was more diversity on the bench, and when I say diversity, yes, I mean color, yes, I mean gender, but I also mean life experiences. If you don't have that kind of diversity, and if your only contact is non-existent with people that don't look like you, or what is portrayed on television, then when you come in contact with those people, you have no life experiences in order to be able to make a decision. The law allows judges to have a lot of flexibility in sentencing, but if you believe that a particular type of person or group of people should be imprisoned because you lack that diversity, then that's what you're going to do. I also think that the police, and not only just the police, but everybody needs to be more accountable. When you have a situation where people are not accountable necessarily for the actions that they do, then I believe other people suffers for that. So I believe that accountability is very important. I don't agree that someone would be a criminal because their parent was. I don't agree with that.
Clint, you're next.
Thank you. My personal view is that there, many, let's say a large percentage of the people who are currently judges were prosecutors before they were judges. I think that has something to do with it. I think that you have a culture currently where bigotry and hatred are weaponized for political expedience, where the Black Lives Matter has been turned into this symbol of racism. I think that's part of it. I think the lack of opportunities that have been provided for minority communities for not just now, but for decades and decades and decades, stretching all the way back, perhaps to the Civil War. I think that there is a lack of opportunity to help people re-enter society, and who may have made some mistakes, have them be returned as productive members of society. I think that now we're seeing the emergence of care courts and different things. People are realizing that. People are realizing that There must be a better way. It really comes down to focus. Do you focus on punishment or do you focus on rehabilitation? It's important that when you see someone, you treat them fairly, give them the opportunity to be restored to a productive member of society. And I think that's part of the problem, along with absolutely racism that has been endemic in our society almost, in fact, I would say since its founding. Thank you.
And Carolyn.
It's a multifaceted response. This country was founded on oppression, and discrimination, racism, sexism were all embedded in our Constitution and in our laws from the founding of this country. Our laws have had oppression embedded into our laws since then, and we have been in the process through hundreds of years of writing that, and we still aren't there yet. You know, part of writing those laws is having judges and a judiciary that does the right thing and overrules laws that are that go against what society feels should be. And that's why it's so important to have judges who are aligned with the majority of American people. And we're seeing that in the Supreme Court, and that's what we need at the trial court level as well. And I would say that as a community lawyer, I'm very aligned with both the community and community organizations.
Okay, thanks. I'm back, and I'd like to start with Clint here. Clint, please describe one instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma, and how did you resolve it? And it'll be Clint, Carolyn, Melissa, and Georgia.
I'll give you two.
Okay.
One is that I went to when I worked for the Department of Justice, I went to court against a doctor who was a drug dealer. I intended to take his license, medical license, and prevent him from practicing law, so we didn't kill anybody else. When we showed up to court, his lawyer was drunk, clearly drunk, and I had the decision to make on the spot as to whether I was going to go forward against him, knowing that I would win and he would be disadvantaged, or whether I was going to do something else. And what I said to the judge was, Your Honor, it appears that counsel is feeling under the weather. He doesn't seem like he looks very well. I think we probably should postpone this trial until another time. The guy said, no, I feel okay. I said, no, you don't look that great. And then he realized that I understood what was going on. And he said, you're right. I don't think I feel well. We ought to postpone this case. So that was the decision I made. The second decision was two people showed up, a boyfriend and a girlfriend. Boyfriend was in full cardiac arrest to a hospital. The doctor on duty in a hospital that didn't have a cardiac unit turned them away, even though the boy was at risk of dying, and sent them to USC where he could be treated because he had Medi-Cal, and that hospital didn't accept Medi-Cal either. The medical board wanted to prosecute him for not having treated that young boy at that hospital. I declined to do it because I thought that even though it arguably violated regulations, he made the right decision to save that kid's life. So I refused to take an action against his license.
Okay. Next in order, Georgia. Oh, no, it was Carolyn.
Sorry, can you clarify, is this in a legal setting or a non-legal setting?
Just an instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma and how you resolved it. It does not have to be in a legal setting.
Okay, great.
Look at its process here, right?
So while I have faced legal dilemmas, ethical dilemmas in a legal setting, I want to talk about when I just started my job as a staff attorney at SEIU Local 1000. There was a union action. So the staff at SEIU Local 1000 were unionized, and there was an action to try to protect the retiree benefits of union members. And I was on probation because it was during my first year. And I decided that I was going to participate in the action despite the fact that I was on probation. And I think that a lot of people would not participate because they would feel like it jeopardizes their chances of becoming a permanent employee. What that tells you is that I have integrity and the courage to make the right decision. And I'm not afraid to take a stance that, you know, is sorry, that is, anyway, I'm not afraid to take a stance.
Thank you. Melissa? Georgia, sorry.
To me, it wasn't an ethical dilemma. It was whether or not I had the courage to do the right thing. Maybe it was the same thing. It's the same thing. I was a very new deputy district attorney trying a case in Compton. And right before lunch or right at lunch, a person in the audience came up to me and said, Ms. Huerta, the case that, well, I was Miss Sullivan then, the case that you're prosecuting, this person didn't do it, and this is the reason why. And the explanation they gave me was so compelling that it cost me during my lunch hour to actually go where the police officer said he saw something for me to see if I could see it. It was a structure that had not been changed. And based upon that, I felt I was prosecuting the wrong person. I hadn't been a DA more than a year. I came back to court, asked the judge, could we approach sidebar, and I dismissed that case. I was on probation for that, but I felt it was the right thing to do. And I did do that. A second thing is during Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, the way people sell flowers and balloons out of their yard and along the curb, an officer wanted me to file misdemeanor charges against those individuals because in some cities that's a misdemeanor. I refused to do that. That's not what that law, that's not what you do. You give someone a warning. You don't file a misdemeanor against a grandmother. You just don't do that. Thank you.
Melissa, I think you're up.
Thanks.
Excellent.
So as a deputy district attorney, I don't really face ethical dilemmas because we're required under our code of ethics to automatically dismiss cases or not file charges or turn over impeachment information or exculpatory information as soon as we get it or as soon as we think it's right. So in the situations just discussed with dismissing charges or not filing, that doesn't really strike me as an ethical dilemma. It's more just something that I'm bound to do as a DA. However, I have faced an ethical dilemma when I was a public defender. I faced multiple ethical dilemmas as a public defender because as a public defender, I was required to only look out for the interests of my client. And sometimes what my client wanted was not in his or her best interest. So for example, my client might want to get out of jail instead of going to a drug program or treatment. And I would have to say, okay, yes, you're getting out of jail. You're not going to a drug program or treatment. Whereas as a DA now, I don't have to face those ethical dilemmas because I can automatically give a person treatment, drug program, mental health treatment. I don't have to deal with the issue that I had when I was a public defender, where I had to make these decisions where the defendant wanted to just get out of jail and not get help. So I can just give the person help now. And that's what I love about being DA. I love the fact that I can do the right thing all the time, every day. Thanks.
Thank you. Ingrid?
All right, next question. And I have to do it in order. So Melissa, you're next. And
I gave you
so
I gave you the order
what?
in the chat.
Yeah. Excuse me?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, Melissa, what are the biggest changes you think we need to make in our justice system? What is your vision for the future of our justice system?
Thank you. So I really think it's extremely important right now, especially given all the volatility going on, the political issues that are swaying one extreme to the other extreme. I mean, it's just, and honestly, it's crazy to me, in my personal opinion, what's happening right now with politics and with the different extremes from one to the next. I think it's really important that we have balance on the bench, that we have judges that can be fair, balanced, just really not be swayed by political pressure, political opinion, and just make decisions based on the facts and the law that's before them. And I think that's so important. And that's what will bring to the bench on day one, because I have been on both sides. I have been a public defender and a DA. I've also been in civil. I've also done administrative hearings before administrative judges. I have all that experience. And that's why I have the perspective to just right off the bat, go on the bench and be as balanced as I possibly can be and be as fair as I can be. You're not going to have to worry about me getting swayed by this political thing that's going on or that political issue. I am just going to follow the law as a Superior Court judge. I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to look at the facts of the cases, and I'm going to make a decision based on the law and based on those facts in the most fair and equitable manner possible.
Thank you. And Georgia, you're next.
Well, what I see for the vision of the future of the justice system, I believe that we need more diversity. And the reason why I say that, you can say, I'm going to be fair and impartial. If you're within your own world, you're fair and impartial. If you haven't experienced anything out of your immediate world, how can you be fair and impartial to people that don't reside within your world? And when I say world, I mean life experiences. You know, the law allows a judge a lot of latitude to make a decision within the law. And I believe the latitude that you use within the law depends upon your common sense, depends upon your life experiences. It depends on a lot of factors. It just doesn't depend on the law itself, because if that's the case, we could have a robot just saying what the law is. We need people who can look at the law and look at the facts, use their common sense, use their experience to see where within the law should I be when it comes to the facts and the circumstances that are before me. And I believe the only way you can do that and say that is that you have to have life experiences. And I believe I have that. I know what it feels like and have people in my life who feel like the justice system doesn't understand them. And in many cases, they're absolutely right. Thank you.
Thank you. And Clint.
Okay, I think the question was, what do I see as the current status of the judicial practice, and how do I see its future? I believe that's what I thought the question was. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. My view is that the current state of judicial practice should be far more focused on rehabilitation than punishment. I think we need to make people safe. We need to keep society safe. It's absolutely, absolutely, absolutely important. However, we also have to have as a primary focus, can this person be restored to society safely? That is the question we must ask. Therefore, as a trial judge, as a hearing judge, depending upon what you're doing in Superior Court, you could do civil stuff, you could do criminal work, anything. We need to have more programs. We need to train judges to use those programs. Whatever we can say about prosecutors, their primary job is to prosecute. We need to have judges on the bench who can understand the programs, who have a whole panoply of alternatives where anybody who can be helped will be helped and only the people who can't be helped or are risks to society are put away. I think that we have far, far, far too many people in prison and jail right now, and we need to do something about it. And that starts at the trial level with the Superior Court judges. That's where that starts. And I think we need to, and we're starting to move in that direction. I see some movement in that direction with care courts and, as I said, different things. So I think that's where I see the future, the best future of Superior Court judges going. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, happy to. Absolutely. What are the biggest changes you think we need to make in our justice system? And what is your vision for the future of the justice system?
I think, like I referred to earlier, we need laws that are more equitable. We have lots of inequity baked into our laws. And as we elect lawmakers who legislate more equitable laws, we need judges who are going to apply those laws fairly and equitably, and without obstructing them, as some judges are doing right now, or trying to, and we can't have judges who are trying to roll back those laws as some judges are trying to do right now. And, you know, once judges are elected at the trial court level, they can be in civil, criminal, family, juvenile, small claims, traffic, probate, or appellate courts. And it's really important to have judges who understand the kinds of people that come through those courts and the impact that even criminal, that even traffic, traffic court and family court can have on these people and families. For example, in family court, it's Black families that are having their kids taken away and put into foster care the most. It's, in traffic court, it's disproportionately African-American and Latino folks who are being pulled over and getting traffic violations.
So that's, so everyone has spoken. I will tell you all that this is going to be another really hard choice for us. I really thank you all. Before you give your 1.5 minute closing now, I want to tell everyone that the ballots have been sent. Unfortunately, Renee Chang is not on the ballot because she didn't send in her application. And we didn't even know she was coming. So if you think you want to vote for Renee Chang, then leave that blank and email me privately, or actually send it in the chat to me privately if for that first seat you would like to vote for Renee Chang. I'm very sorry, but we can only do what we can do here. That's why we sent everyone a lot of reminders. So please, it's now time to do your 1.5 minute closing. Everyone open your ballots if you've got them. Don't vote yet. And then as soon as we're done, send your ballots in. Okay, what did I say here? I wanted to start with our closing with Carolyn, then Clint, then Georgia, then Melissa. Carolyn.
I think all of the candidates in my race are qualified in terms of experience, despite the fact that I was rated not qualified. I think that this group should note that there are slate mates on the public defenders, on the defenders of justice slate, who have more experience than the candidates in this race, and yet were rated just qualified, and they happen to be women. So the important questions are for you, what perspective do we bring to the bench? And do you want to continue with the status quo? The other candidates in my race are prosecutors or are part of the government, which has created the status quo. My perspective is informed by my time in my chosen career of advocating for people from all walks of life. And that's why I'm best able to be a truly fair judge who applies the laws fairly and equitably.
Okay, next. Thank you. Clint?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I am the only candidate in this race who has tried thousands of cases as a judge. And I will tell you that this is not a job, having done it now for pushing 8 years, this is not a job where you are really, really good at it in day one. It's a job which requires experience, knowing how to handle a courtroom, knowing how to handle parties that break down in front of you. And I've had many of those, people who are angry, people who don't present their cases well, and you have to help them. It takes time to learn how to be a judge. I am the only candidate in this race who has been a judge for an extended period of time and will hit the ground running day one as a judge, ready to go. I was rated well qualified by the LA County Bar Association. I have been endorsed, in addition to the people that organizations I've already mentioned, by an associate dean of law school, 2 Beverly Hills mayors, the personal endorsement from the president of the charity that I was on the board of. I was on the board of the Exceptional Children's Foundation for 9 years. I was chairman of that board for 2 years. It was the largest children's, still is, the largest children's charity in California. I helped that organization merge with other organizations. I also assisted elderly gay people while I was in business school in San Francisco, stay in their homes. I also have worked at San Quentin. I've worked at Milan Federal Penitentiary. I've had a lot of breadth of exposure, and I've been poor. I've lived in my cab while I drove a cab. That is the breadth of experience which I will bring to the bench. And I look forward to your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Carol, the end. Georgia.
Yes. I'll let you know that I was a deputy district attorney for over 30 years. I left the office last year. I can tell you that I can do the job as a judge. When you're in the courtroom every day for over 30 years, I know how the courtroom runs. I know what's required of the parties. I've done it over and over again. I know what to do in dealing with a jury. I know how to pick a jury. I know how to interact with a jury. I've tried over 80 jury trials, and it's not my decision. It is me presenting information to persuade 12 people. That's different than you just coming up with a decision yourself. So I am ready, and I can hit the ground running as a judge and do a good job at it. I will let you know that not only have I tried cases, I've done thousands of also preliminary hearings. So my life has been in a superior court where I want to be a superior court judge. I just want to quickly let you know that not only have I tried cases from simple misdemeanors to special circumstance, my last 3 years in the district attorney's office, I was working in the community collaborative court, alternative sentencing, where the focus is rehabilitation and treatment. You're talking about restorative justice, and the judges don't understand it. Well, that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years as a partner, as a team member with other people to actually help change people's lives. And we did that. Thank you.
Okay, and Melissa?
Thank you. I am ready to be a Superior Court judge. I'm in the prime of my career. I'm still practicing law, and I would love to be a Superior Court judge for the rest of my life. I am the candidate who will bring balance to the bench on day one. I have the perspective of having represented indigent people accused of crimes of all races and representing indigent victims of all races. This perspective is very rare, and nobody else running in the entire election has been both a public defender and a district attorney. However, I also have life experience. My sister has mental health issues and has been in and out of psychiatric facilities on 5150 holds. My daughter had developmental disabilities. My cousin was in and out of jail and died of a drug overdose. So it's not just my legal experience, of which I received a well-qualified rating, but also my life experience that makes me ready for this role. I have been endorsed by far more judges than any of the other candidates here. Judges who I worked with in the public defender's office, judges who I worked with in the district attorney's office. I have been endorsed by over 60 Superior Court judges and bench officers who know my temperament, know that I'm fair, I've also been endorsed by the Torrance Democratic Club, which is my home club, and I'm a member of this club here. I love West LA. My family has loved it for many years. It was and still is a safe haven for my grandparents who are Holocaust survivors, and I humbly ask for your endorsement. I would be so grateful. Thank you.
So thank you. I want to thank all of you again for participating, for just being here in front of us, for letting us know who you are, what you think. We try to figure out your processes, how, we're the lay group here. You're the experts, and I know some of you have been in this field for a long, long time. So I was looking at the ballots, and I want to thank you all. And now I'm going back to the meeting. And
thank you so much.
yes, and thank you all very much. And I'm going back to the meeting, and I see a lot of you here have actually not voted yet. And I've just extended the voting for another 15 minutes because I think that you haven't voted. And I don't want to not give everyone the opportunity. So, we have a choice to just hang out and talk informally and wait, or I can send out an email tonight and let everybody know what the results are. I know this is a little unorthodox. We don't usually do this, but things ran over tonight, so I don't.
Since the debate just ended, give it a few more minutes.
Well, you don't really have a choice, Michelle, with election buddy.
Well, alrighty.
They give you a block. So I've had to extend it. I would have liked to have just extended it to 8:05 or 8:10, but I had to do it till 8:15 because that's your blocks. They're 15-minute blocks. So let's just talk. I don't know what you want to do. I'm happy to. Dancy, come on, give us something to talk about here.
I was just typing you a message saying, I got to go over the Torrance Dem Club meeting, which is already an hour into it. And Ted Liu's the guest. He may have already left it. So I have to say bye-bye. I did submit my ballot, and I'll look forward to your email to see the results.
Okay, great.
Thank you, everybody. Wonderful forum. I rely on these forums to make decisions, especially in these.
Thank you, Dancy.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. And I do hope, and everybody, we do have all of your questionnaires that we have received. Some were so late, I couldn't get them into the e-letter, and I really wanted to because I can see, what people do, how you respond to our emails. And I'm so grateful that so many of our readers open your questionnaires. They come prepared to hear what you have to say after seeing what you've written. And we'll try to get them also on our website. Our website was hacked. It's been down for, since February or March. I don't even know. We finally started getting it up, but we wanted to have all of our questionnaires on it. I'm not sure we'll be able to.
We will. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Probably by the end of next week. So before time to vote, all of the candidate statements will be up, as well as all of the videos, and we'll figured out a bunch of stuff. But
yes, we are being recorded now, and this will go. I will be sending out in the next e-letter Saturdays and today's candidate forums, our videos on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So talk amongst yourselves while I go and check our ballot.